Are you insane? That was my lawyer, Donald Jenkins. They have a literal airtight case. There are probably a dozen witnesses, including your wife, not to mention the very clear videos from not one, not two, but three separate security cameras, all in broad daylight. Your fingerprints and DNA are all over the weapon you used. Your motive is very well documented. That's not even mentioning that the police officers actually caught you in the act and had their body cams on showing you attacking him. Yep. All very good points. I could see where he thought I might be insane to refuse the plea deal that I was being offered. I plead guilty and get 5 years with another 5 probation, or I get convicted in court and chance the judge sentencing me to 15 to 20. Then again, if I were a normal, intelligent person, I probably wouldn't be in this situation in the first place. First, it would have been best if I didn't actually commit the crime, or if I did, I would have been much smarter about it and at least tried to cover my tracks. Nope. I did it and didn't care who knew about it. Look, you hired me to represent and advise you. I'm telling you that you don't stand a chance in hell at trial. The DA is only offering this deal because of the backlog of court cases. Giving you this deal eliminates the cost and time of a trial that isn't necessary. My best advice is to take the deal. You are not getting off on this. No lawyer in the world can get you off on this. I can't even put up any defense. If we go to trial, all I will be able to do is sit beside you and watch the DA crucify you. There isn't even anything that I can make a case with. Once the prosecution rests, I will simply rest my case as well. I can't even call a single witness to defend you. You're toast. The only thing you can do is to mitigate this disaster as much as possible by serving the least amount of time possible. Going to trial will only cost you a hell of a lot of money just to make things worse for yourself. So, counselor, when will the trial be? How long will it last? And how long after that until sentencing? I asked. His eyes kind of glazed over as he tried to come to terms with the fact that I simply didn't care. Because of the backlog, the actual trial will be in about 6 months. Before that, there will be your arraignment, hearings on the charges brought, and evidentiary hearings. I'll make motions that will have to be heard, the DA will make motions, and a few other things. All I can do is to try and stall the trial, but it won't make any difference. Fine. You need to call my sister and let her know what my bail will be. She'll bail me out. That's not going to be cheap, he answered. Not your problem. Also, send her your invoices. She'll make sure to take care of them. He left. I'm sure that he was thinking about getting a mental evaluation of me. Perhaps there might be an insanity defense. That was fine with me. I had no issue with paying more money to him for doing his best, not that it would actually matter. Oh, you may be wondering what's going on. Let me go back a couple of months. My name is Dan Malloy, I'm 56 years old, and live with my beautiful and loving wife, Kimberly. We've been married for 25 years and have 2 wonderful daughters, Gina and Susan. Gina is 22 and a senior in college. Like me, she is studying mechanical engineering. Sue is 20 and studying business administration. They are planning on taking over my firm when I retire. It's a small firm, and we are not rich by any means, but we are comfortable. We own our home, still making payments, but there are only a few more years left on that. We drive decent cars, even if they aren't top-of-the-line luxury automobiles. I have made sure that I put enough away in my investment accounts to retire nicely when I turn 65. Kimberly has been a stay-at-home mom since Gina was born. Once both kids were fully entrenched in school, she did some volunteering at different charities as a way to get out of the house while the girls were in school. When Sue left for college, her volunteering hours increased to make up for becoming empty nesters. I had no problem with that, and even encouraged her. It made her happy, as well as allowing us to attend several more evening events. Kim and I used to have an awesome, intimate life while we dated, became engaged, and then married. Having kids slowed us down a bit, but it was still fairly often and exciting. As the kids grew, our responsibilities increased, and as we aged, things began to get a bit less exciting and a little less often. Still, lovemaking was fulfilling for both of us. We probably did it 2 to 3 times a week. No, it wasn't as adventurous as when we were younger, and it was fairly predictable, but we still engaged in various positions and activities. When we knew the girls would not be home for a while, we would occasionally make use of the couch in the living room. Yes, it was fairly predictable, but we both enjoyed it. Everything came crashing down on a bright autumn morning. I had been to the doctor a week before to have some tests run. I had been feeling run down and kind of blah for a while. It just seemed that I was tired all the time. Kim had noticed and hounded me until I gave in and made an appointment. I was depressed when I walked out of the office. The test results were in. I decided that I wasn't returning to the office that day. I needed to go somewhere and think. There were plans to be made and decisions that needed to happen. I also needed to think about what I was going to tell my wife and daughters. I was headed to a little sports bar where I liked to get a burger and some alcohol as I thought about the news. I was at a stoplight by the local college when I noticed my wife's car pull out. That wasn't a surprise. One of the things that she volunteered for was tutoring at the college. She has a degree in English from before we got married and always loved literature. Having time available, she tutored some students on campus. What was surprising was that she was not alone. In fact, she was not even driving. Kim was sitting in the passenger seat as some young and very large black kid was driving. I was 2 cars back at the light, and they had not seen me. It was very evident, even from the quick glimpse that I got, that Kim's sole focus was on the kid who was driving. The whole thing didn't seem right. Since they had turned onto the road in front of me and in the same direction, I decided to follow. I made sure that there were at least 2 cars between us. It didn't matter. 5 minutes later, I watched as they pulled into a low-end motel. As they turned right to enter the motel's parking lot, I turned left into a parking lot for a strip mall. I had just pulled into a parking space by the street when I saw them leave her car and enter the motel lobby. A few minutes later, I watched as they walked along the balcony on the 2nd floor and entered a room. It didn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that it wasn't going to be literature that they were studying in there. More like anatomy. It was 2 hours later that I saw them leave the room. By this time, I had my digital camera ready. I always carry my camera with me, because sometimes I need to take pictures of projects to document the issues being raised. I had the zoom lens on to make sure that I captured detailed photos of them. He had his hand on her back as they walked back towards the lobby. This time I could recognize the jerk. He was the star receiver for the university football team. He was a senior this year and had scouts from every NFL team watching him every game. Most of the mock drafts had him being selected mid to late 1st round. Even the most critical analysis predicted that there was no way that he would get past the 2nd round. The kid was going to be a surefire star in the NFL. I'm a bit of a football nut, so I enjoy following the games and analysis that's available. It helps a lot during office pools and betting on the games. I win a lot more than I lose. Well, my wife is cheating on me. That's a total deal breaker for me. We've discussed this a couple of times. Forsake all others means something to me. It is a vow before God, family, and friends to each other. That is a vow that is simply not broken. Until death do you part. Okay, sure, there is divorce. Don't want me anymore? Fine. If you're stupid enough to want to leave, I'm smart enough to let you. I already fought for you once. That's what dating and engagement is for. I won that fight when she said I do. I shouldn't have to fight for her again. All the plans and decisions that I had been mulling over needed to change. I needed a whole new plan. I waited about 10 minutes after they left before I started the car and went on my way. I ended up at the sports bar that had been my original destination. I carried my notepad in with me and selected a booth in the back, so I had some privacy. I ordered a burger, beer, and a bourbon from the waitress, then began to formulate my plan. I wrote down notes as I thought. There were 4 columns. What would likely happen to me, what to do about my daughters, what to do about the cheating woman, and what to do about the jerk. Me. Did it really matter? Not particularly. There was an overriding issue that made everything in this column moot. There was no possible way for me to forgive and forget what my cheating wife did. There could be no possible path to reconciliation. There was also no future for me with my daughters either. While I loved them with all my heart, I would never be invited to their graduation from college. I would never walk them down the aisle for their wedding, and I would never bounce their children on my knees. Speaking of my daughters, I needed them to be taken care of. Sure, they were grown adults now and could take care of themselves. Still, I wanted them to succeed. There was still college to finish. Then they needed to gain experience before taking over the firm. I also needed to make sure that they had enough resources to sustain them until they were completely self-sufficient. If I could leave them more to make their lives better, it would be a bonus. For the cheating wife, I wanted to screw her over as much as possible. I would give her a punishment that she would never forget. She wanted to mess around on me with some big, strong athlete. I would show her what a real mess was. I gave her everything I had and she repays me like that? Okay, she would get nothing more from me. For the jerk, he took one of the most precious things I had away from me. I would repay him by taking his most precious thing away. Once the brainstorming was done, I began a flowchart. For those of you unfamiliar with it, a flowchart is used in engineering to chart the path of decisions or events. It is an if// or document. You begin with the first step. That step has two outcomes. If yes, do this. Or if no, do that. It expands from there. The outcome of each step leads to the next step until the problem is solved. This can be used to logically solve virtually any problem. It can also be used as a way to figure out possible issues and resolve them beforehand and look ahead to possible roadblocks so they can be eliminated. 4 hours, 3 beers, and 2 double bourbons later, I had the outline of my plan. Unfortunately, 3 beers and 2 double bourbons later, I was not in any condition to deal with the cheating woman. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have done it, but I drove back to the office. I was far from blitzed. It had been 5 drinks in 4 hours, so it wasn't that bad. Still, I was probably over the limit. I have a small room with a bed and an attached bathroom in the office. It was handy for those long nights when I was under a deadline and had to work long into the night. It wasn't unheard of for me to make use of it, but it wasn't a normal occurrence. I sent a short text to the cheating wife telling her that I had a deadline and some issues came up. I was planning on a long night and just sleeping at the office. The next morning, I got up and continued my plans. By noon, I had everything written into detailed steps. By the end of the day, I had gone through every step, detail by detail, and revised as I found minor issues. I decided that I had 30 days to take care of everything before the last step. I stayed 2 hours later than usual, rearranging the steps to fit the timeline before going home. By this time, I had control of my emotions enough to act somewhat normal. I had also concocted a cover story to give my wife for why I had been so worn out and what the doctor had said. Basically, I was going to tell her that age and overworking was beginning to take its toll. He wanted me to cut back a little on work and get more exercise. Of course, I would be too tired for intimacy for a while until my new lifestyle began to take effect. Yeah, I wasn't going anywhere near that cesspool ever again, but she didn't need to know that. I managed to have a normal evening at home. I didn't have to fake being tired. I really was. Kim tried to be affectionate, but I was just too exhausted from the mental stress and the fitful sleep from last night. She asked about the project I was working on, and I gave her some nonsense about a time-sensitive design that had changed parameters. She never really involved herself in the company, so I could pretty much tell her anything and she would believe me. The next morning, I was up early. I had some appointments to make and people to talk to. I should probably note here that the business, as well as most of everything we owned, was in just my name. Yes, we started the business after we were married, but I was the one with the income and credentials. It was formed as a sole proprietor with me being the owner. Kim's name was not on any of the paperwork. As for our house, again, the title and mortgage were just under my name. It was just easier that way. Kim had no income, so she would only lower her credit rating. It didn't matter to either of us at the time because we were planning on spending the rest of our lives together. Even if something happened to me, Kim would be the beneficiary. I even made out a will stating that. By the end of the week, I had the new will signed and notarized. I had also hired a private investigator to watch my wife and gather more evidence on what she was doing. I had no doubts, but the girls would need more concrete proof. That was the easy step. The next few things would be a bit more complicated and require help outside the legal and business professionals. "Carly, how's my favorite sister today?" I said when she answered her phone. "I damn well better be your favorite sister since I'm the only sister you have," she replied. "Now, what do you want?" "What do I want? I'm deeply offended that you immediately assume that I want something when I call you." "Yeah, when you start the conversation with that favorite stuff, you always want something." "What is it?" she asked. "Well, aside from your snarky remarks, I do want to see my favorite and most beautiful sister. It's been a while, and I thought that you might like me to treat you to lunch today." "Oh, hell, it's worse than I thought. Favorite, beautiful, and you buying. Hold on while I look up to the sky and see if the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are coming." My sister and I got along really well. We were pretty much all we had anymore since our parents died. She had divorced her cheating husband about 5 years ago. Since then, she has gone back to school and gotten her MBA. She was currently an accounts manager at a manufacturing firm in town. They were one of my clients. Truthfully, she was too smart for that position and only needed experience and time before she would become a vice president. If she had gotten the MBA and started with them right out of college, she very well could have been CEO by this point. Instead, she got married to that jerk and dropped out of the workforce for a while. "Seriously, Car, I do need your help. I need to see you today. Take the whole afternoon off and meet me at Hammerhead's at 11. My voice was desperate, and I'm sure that she could hear the cracking in it. "Oh, hell. It's bad, isn't it?" she asked. "It's worse than you could even begin to imagine. Please, Car." "Of course, big bro. I'll be there. Not only are you my big brother, but we both know that I owe you everything for what you've done for me." "You don't owe me anything, sis. I did what I did because you are family. You needed help, and I just did what family does." "Fine. Then I'll do what family does this time." I was at the same table in the back corner when she walked in. The hostess pointed in my direction, and she came over and sat across from me. "Do you have to go back today?" I asked. "Nope. You asked for me to take the afternoon off, so I did," she replied. Hearing that, I placed our order with the waitress. I knew what she liked, so I just ordered for both of us. "Bourbon at this time? It must be the apocalypse." "Pretty much," I replied. "Okay, Carly, here it is. You know that I've been wanting you to come over and work for me. I understand that you want to be on your own and earn your own way. You think that working for your family will make it seem nepotism. That simply isn't the case. You are very good at what you do, and you are being undervalued where you work. I really need you now." "Look, Dan, I appreciate the offer, I really do. I'm just not sure how it would work. I know we get along fine, but how would that change if you became my boss? I've heard horror stories about when family members go to work for their relatives." "Okay, Car. I didn't want to have to do it this way, but I'm desperate. When I said that I needed you to work for my company, it wasn't an overstatement. I don't just need you to come to work for my firm, I need you to take over as CEO. I need you to run the firm, at least until Gina and Sue are ready to take over. I need you to mentor them and prepare them for that. When they turn 30 years old, you can begin transferring responsibilities if you feel that they are ready. Gina will most likely take over as COO, and Sue will become CEO. By then, you should be able to retire or work as a consultant occasionally." "Dan, you're kind of starting to worry me. If I take over your firm and train your daughters to take over when they graduate, what will you be doing? I couldn't help but notice that you left that part out." This is why I wanted you to just accept my offer. I didn't want to go into this right now. I had hoped to tell you differently. Now, I'm going to have to guilt you into it. Carly, I found out 2 things a week ago, both on the same day. No one else knows this, but I'm dying. I have pancreatic cancer. There's nothing that they can do. I will be lucky to live for another 6 months. It's probably more like 3 or 4 months. Things are going to be going downhill fast. The other thing is that Kim is cheating on me with at least one of the students at the college she tutors. I'm setting things up for the girls, and you are going to be trustee of the estate. Kim won't get a damn thing. Everything is being set up in trusts that you will administer with the help of my lawyer. I've already made out a will specifying that. I've moved ownership of the firm into an LLC where you, Gina, and Sue are the owners. I sold the house to the firm, so it is now owned by the LLC as well. I need you to give your notice at work, then start spending a few hours every evening and sometime on weekends at my office over the next 2 weeks. We will use that time to bring you up to speed so you can take over as soon as you leave your current job. I will still be there to help out for a week or 2, but not any longer than that. We sat quietly for a bit. She was trying to come to terms with what I had just told her, and I was waiting for her to digest it. Our food had come, and we ate in silence. As the waitress was collecting our empty plates, Carly asked her for another round of bourbon. "You're a bastard for putting me in this position," she finally said. "Of course I'll do it. You aren't leaving me much choice." "I know. I'm sorry. Believe me, I wish that I didn't have to do this. There are a couple of other things that I will need you to do as well, but we'll go over that later." "Am I going to be annoyed about those other things?" she asked with a smile. "You have no idea," I answered. So we spent the rest of the afternoon discussing the firm and what she needed to do to prepare. She wasn't an engineer, but her role was mainly on the business side of things. I informed her that I would be promoting one of my senior engineers to help her with that side of things. We went back to my office where we began going through the accounts and other information that she would need to have. Before we left for our respective homes, she used my computer to write up a quick letter of resignation for her job. Things began to happen rapidly by that point. Every day I could feel myself becoming more exhausted. I was spending long days at the office taking care of the firm and training Carly in the evenings. We spent several hours on both weekends at the office as well. Kim began to get worried at how run down I was getting. I would come home, get a quick bite to eat, then pass out in bed. Intimacy was non-existent. Kim tried to talk to me about my long hours. I explained that I had a couple of large, time-sensitive projects going on, but everything would be completed in about 2 more weeks. I told her that I was also making a few changes that would take a lot of the burden off of me, but I needed to put in the time now to make everything run smoother later. She wasn't happy, but she seemed to understand. It was Friday, Kim's last day at her old job, and she would officially take over on Monday. The private investigator had finished their work, and I was sitting in his office going over the results. She was indeed having an affair with the football player. 3 times a week they would leave campus and go to a motel. There were even photos and a short video that was taken through a cracked-open curtain. There was no doubt that they were having intimacy. I thanked him and paid the balance of the bill. He gave me the file and a thumb drive. Sunday evening, Carly and I finished up with going over everything so she could hit the ground running the next morning. It had been a long day, and I was feeling it. I knew that I needed to finish things up that week before I was too far gone to do it. "Okay, Carly, we've discussed most of what I need you to do. As of 7 a.m. tomorrow, you will be in charge. We've met with the lawyer and accountant, and all required signatures have been notarized. You are officially in charge of all the trusts and the LLC. I'm not going to tell you when, where, or what, but I need you to bail me out when my lawyer calls you." "You're going to do something stupid, aren't you?" she asked. "That is a matter of opinion, but probably." "Okay, but they don't let murderers out on bail," she replied. "No one will die. You don't need to worry about that. I want them to live and regret their actions." So, you don't want Kim to bail you out? Is that because you don't anticipate her being able to? She asked. I'm not going to physically harm her. Still, I'm not sure that she would be willing to bail me out. Fine, she replied. Wednesday. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I was crouched behind a big SUV next to the driver's side of my wife's car. It was parked in the motel parking lot. I heard them talking as they walked back to the car. This had to be Fast and Furious. He was a lot bigger than I was to begin with. Then there was the fact that he had the strength and endurance of a high-level athlete. Then, there was the little issue with my strength and endurance being deprived because of my illness. I heard the car unlock as he hit the fob. He chuckled at something my wife said as she opened the passenger side door. I heard him open the driver's door and attacked. I was already swinging the bat as I spun around the back of the SUV. Kim's eyes began to go wide at the sight of me. She didn't even have time to shout a warning as my bat came down with all my strength on my right hand that was resting on the top of the car. As the bat recoiled, I kept the motion and brought it around in an uppercut to his groin. He fell to the ground trying to simultaneously grasp his shattered hand and severely injured testicles. As he writhed around on the pavement, the bat struck each knee. Both kneecaps were shattered. Another strike to his testicles, then I started for his elbows. I had just destroyed his right elbow when I was overcome by a blinding pain. My entire body stiffened, then went into convulsions before I blacked out. When I came to, I was lying face down on the pavement with my wrists cuffed behind my back. I learned that bad timing had placed a patrol car on the street beside us, just as I began my assault. The cops had seen me storm around from the back of the SUV and attack my wife's lover. They hit me with the taser on my wind-up to ruin the jerk's left elbow. 3 more patrol cars showed up as the ambulance arrived. Once I was conscious, I was escorted over and placed in the back of one of the cars. I found it interesting to watch as my hysterical wife was giving a very animated version of events to a rather attractive policewoman. Eventually, I was taken to the station and booked. Of course, they had me in an interrogation room. They used normal psychological tricks. Leave me alone for an hour or two, good cop, bad cop, nonsense that everything will be fine if I just confess, etc. Seriously? They wanted a confession? Why? Unfortunately, those tricks only work on someone who actually gives a damn about what's going to happen to them. I already knew what was going to happen. I was going to die, and there wasn't a damn thing that would change that. The DA had a slam dunk case, and she knew it. She also had a huge backlog of cases because of the coronavirus taking its toll on available judges, jury pools, and other support personnel. Why waste time going through the motions on this? The outcome was a foregone conclusion. She made an offer. My lawyer presented it to me. I refused. Now, we are back at the beginning of this story. So continuing from the beginning part of the story where he left. I'm sure that he was thinking about getting a mental evaluation on me. Perhaps there might be an insanity defense. That was fine with me. I had no issue with paying more money to him for doing his best, not that it would actually matter. Kim surprised me by actually coming to visit me. I was still in jail. I had my arraignment and bail set. Carly was supposed to have bailed me out, but she was a bit upset by the carnage. She would be bailing me out, but she wanted me to cool my heels for a couple days first. I'm sorry, she began. It really didn't mean anything to me. There was no romance or feelings, really. It was just... Intimacy? I finished for her. Yes. He was just so big and strong. He had that confidence that just takes over the whole room. And yes, he was bigger than you and recharged a lot faster. Congratulations! I'm glad that he could make you happy. She definitely was not happy now. She began sobbing, then abruptly stood and ran out. Oh well. I was out on bail the next day. Carly picked me up and took me back to the office. Well, if you wanted to ruin his life, you succeeded. He will never play sports again, not even for fun. His right hand is shattered. They expect that he will only recover 50% of its use at best. Both knees are destroyed. He will be able to walk again, but that's about it. His elbow will never fully extend either, she said after we sat down in her office. So I succeeded then. Why that much carnage? She asked. Simple. He took away one of the most precious things I had. I decided to return the favor. He took away my wife. I took away his football playing. An eye for an eye, a future for a future. You realize that they are going to sue, don't you? Sue who for what? They are going to sue me? I'll be dead long before it ever gets to court. If they try to go after my estate, they'll find that I don't have one. All I have at this point is a couple $1,000s to survive on for another couple of months. They can sue all they want, but there is nothing for them to collect. They can't go after the firm because I had already removed myself from it. They can't go after the girls because they are legal adults and on their own. The only person that they can go after is Kim, and I really don't care about that. Besides, she doesn't have any money for them to collect either. Okay, so what's your plan now? She asked. Simple. I'm going to die. I turned down the deal that I was offered. It will be a couple of months before it can go to trial, and I will be gone by that time. You really need to talk to your daughters. They need to know, and they're really freaking out about what you did. I was planning on doing that this evening, I replied. Actually, you can do it in a few minutes. They're on their way. I've got the conference room reserved for you for the rest of the day. A half an hour later, and I was sitting across from my two daughters at the table in the conference room. Daddy, what the hell? The videos of you beating that kid with a baseball bat is all over the news. And what the hell was Mom doing there? Gina asked. I slid a file over to them. Your mom was there because they had just left the motel room they were sleeping in. He was your mom's lover. That file is from the private investigator I hired. Did you know that he was a star football player at the university and that he was expected to be drafted in the first or second round? You destroyed his career. Yes, I knew that. I did it on purpose. He took away the love of my life, so I took away what he loves. But now he will sue you for everything you have, and you will be going to prison for a long time. Neither of those things will happen. First off, I made sure that I had nothing to lose. I do not have any assets that anyone can take. The firm is no longer in my name. It is now owned by an LLC in Carly and your names. All of the money is in trust funds for you two. The house is actually in the trust funds in your two names. You own everything. Carly is executor of the trust. Your mother has no access to any of it. What you do for her is no longer my concern. Is there any chance that you can reconcile before you go to prison? She asked. No chance at all, and I already said that I won't be going to prison. Dad, be real. There is no possible way that you won't be convicted. We've been watching every show about it and going over all the articles. There's no possible way for you to get away with what you did. I'm not getting away with it. I'm not even trying to. My emotions had been welling up from the time my beautiful daughters walked into the room. It suddenly hit me like a Mack truck. I wouldn't be there for their college graduations. I wouldn't be there to walk them down the aisle for their weddings. I would never be able to hold my grandchildren. I was sobbing. I felt two presences beside me, and they were holding me with their arms wrapped around me. Oh, God. What's wrong, Daddy? Susan asked. I'm dying, babies. I have a really bad cancer. I only have about 2 more months at best. No, they both wailed. I suddenly felt another person behind me wrapping arms around all 3 of us. I looked and saw the tears flowing down Carly's cheeks. The 4 of us sat there crying for a few more minutes until we were able to get control of our emotions. Finally, I directed the girls back to their chairs. As you can see, I will be long gone before my trial even starts. Also, I will be dead before any lawsuit can even get started. Once I'm gone, there will be nothing that they can get from me. Everything that I had was all gotten rid of long before the attack. They can't even go after the house because I sold it to the LLC. The money from the sale went into the trust. That trust will be available to you when you turn 30 years old. I have no assets. I cashed out all my investments and donated it to charities. Why didn't you tell us this before now? Gina queried. I found out about a month ago. Just after I left the doctor's office, I saw your mother's car leave the university. Her lover was driving it and she was in the passenger seat. I followed them to the motel they went to. I watched them walk into the room, then waited about 2 hours for them to leave. I was devastated. Not only had I just found out that I only had a few months left to live, but then discovered that the love of my life was cheating on me. I spent the next 2 days planning what I would do. This is the end result of that planning. We talked and cried together for another hour. Then it was time for business again. I called Carly in for this. We went over the new organizational structure for the firm. When Gina graduates, she will start working with the engineers. She will be involved with all the projects and sit in with the management meetings. Once she gets her PE license, she will be given her own projects to manage. Over time, she will become involved with helping Carly with running the company. It is hoped that by the time Gina turns 30, she can take over as COO. As for Sue, she will become Carly's assistant when she graduates. She will be working side by side with Carly on the business side of the firm. Sue will take over as CEO when she is ready. With Gina on the operations side and Sue on the business side, things should work well. Carly will also be available for advice and referee between the two of them. It was a week later. I was living with my sister, and I hadn't talked to Kim since she visited me in jail. I was sitting on the couch in Carly's living room. There were bright lights shining on me and a rather attractive redhead sitting across from me. Good morning. This is Amy Brown with Crap News. I'm here with Dan Malloy, who has been charged with grievous bodily harm in the vicious attack on star wide receiver Jamal Washington. Mr. Malloy has graciously agreed to an interview. She began for the cameras. She then turned to me. Mr. Malloy, I'm actually surprised that you are doing an interview. Aren't you worried about the gag order issued by the judge on this case? Not worried at all. There really isn't much that he can do about it. By the time this airs and he sees it, he won't be able to do anything about it. But he could cite you with contempt and put you in jail. Well, I do have contempt for the divorce laws in this country. Look at them. A wife can mess around on her husband all she wants. If her husband tries to divorce her, she gets the kids, house, child support, and maintenance. She will usually get most of the other assets as well. The poor bastard that married her ends up living in a cheap apartment eating top ramen while paying most of his income for his ex-wife to party with her string of lovers. They reward the cheaters and punish those who did nothing wrong. Aren't you worried about going to jail? She asked. Not in the least. What about the lengthy prison sentence that you are looking at? First off, I haven't actually been convicted of anything. There is always that innocent until proven guilty thing we have in this country. Yes, but you must agree that there is overwhelming evidence against you. Yes, I am aware of that. I'm not the least bit worried about it. Okay. I can't wait to find out how you can be so confident about that. But what about Jamal's lawsuit against you? I understand that he is demanding over $40 million in lost income, pain, and suffering, not to mention a lifetime of physical impairment. Blood from a stone. Not gonna happen. I have nothing to take. I am unemployed and homeless. I have no assets. But you have a successful engineering firm and a huge house, she asked. No, I don't. I sold the business and the house over a month ago. Everything I owned I put in trust funds to ensure that my children would be taken care of if something happened to me. It was all completely legal and ethical. All taxes were properly paid. I cashed out all of my investments and gave everything to charity. I don't even have wages to garnish. Okay, back to the attack. You have never denied that you did it, but you never said why. Why did you attack him, and why so viciously? It seems as if you deliberately targeted those areas that would destroy any chance at a career in the NFL. Oh, that was most certainly my goal. Had the police not tasered me when they did, I would have shattered his other elbow and then gotten a couple more good hits to his crotch before stopping. It was never my intention to kill him, just cripple him and destroy his testicles. That attempted murder charge the DA threw in is a joke. My intention was never his death. In fact, I went out of my way to avoid hitting him anywhere that could have killed him. If I wanted to do that, my first hit would have been to his head instead of his hand. "So why did you attack him in the first place?" she asked. "Isn't it obvious? Where did the attack happen? In a motel parking lot. Who was with him? My wife. They were having an affair. They had just come out of the room they had been in for 2 hours. I decided that if he could take away the most precious thing in my life, my soulmate, I would take away the most important thing in his life, his football career. Making him impotent was just an added benefit." "I see. You certainly accomplished your goal. What about your wife? After all, it takes two to tango. Do you plan on any revenge for her?" she asked. "I do, but I won't reveal it now. I won't use any physical violence against her, so you don't have to worry about that. My revenge on her for cheating will be perfectly legal. Oh, she will suffer greatly, but she won't be able to do anything about it. In fact, what I have planned is already done, but she doesn't know it yet." "When will she find out?" she asked. "When will this interview air?" "Okay, back to your impending prison sentence." "It's not impending. I still haven't been convicted in a court of law." "Okay then, how about we say back to your likely conviction and prison sentence?" "Much better," I replied. "So why are you so confident that you won't be convicted and sent to prison?" Let me start that by telling you the events of a day a little over a month ago. I had been feeling really tired and run down for a while, so I went to the doctor to get checked out. About a week later, I went in to get the results. They weren't good. I had just left the doctor's office when I saw my wife's car leaving the university campus. I thought that it was odd because Jamal was driving her car and Kim was in the passenger's seat. I followed them to the motel and waited for 2 hours for them to come out. A couple of things to note here. Kim is a certified tutor for the university. In effect, she is part of the faculty. Even being a volunteer, she is still under the regulations of the faculty as far as student relationships go. Being a tutor, she has authority over her students, just like one of their professors. I remember a trip to Cancun once where I met a couple of women college professors. They were both single and looking for some college guys to hook up with for the week. While we were talking, I mentioned that I thought relationships between professors and students were illegal because of the positions of authority that the professors had. They laughed and said, "The law doesn't say that we can't have students. It only says we can't have our students." Well, Jamal was one of Kim's students. So, back to your answer. After seeing what I did, I hired a private investigator to get solid proof of what I saw. I also began making arrangements for what the doctor had told me. Originally, those arrangements were to include taking care of Kim. After what I saw, I simply cut out that part of the plans. Now, everything that I did was to make sure that my daughters were taken care of. They were always going to take over the business eventually, I just formalized it. I also hired a really good businesswoman to act as CEO and prepare the girls for taking over when they are ready. I also transferred the company from a sole proprietorship to an LLC, as well as transferring the authority out of my name. Any money that I had was transferred to a trust fund for the girls being executed by someone else. I also transferred the title of my house over to the trust fund as a gift to the girls. So, I am not the least bit worried about any possible recriminations, because I will not be around for them. What the doctor told me is that I have a really aggressive pancreatic cancer. It is untreatable. At best, I have 2 months left. More than likely, I will be dead within a month. My trial will not even start for another 3 months. What are they going to do? Put my dead body in a prison cell? As for my wife, I am leaving her with nothing. Perhaps our daughters will take pity on her and help her out. It's not my concern any longer. Also, the file documenting her affair with her student will be sent out to the university board, as well as the proper law enforcement agencies. I also have a copy for you if you would like. I should let you know that copies will also be sent to all the major news media as well. You just destroyed their lives. Don't you think that was a little bit of overkill? She asked. Not in the least. They destroyed my life, or what was left of it. Imagine if you were given the worst possible news, and all you wanted was to be comforted by your spouse. Instead, less than half an hour later, you discover that your spouse is cheating on you. Yes, I'm going to die soon, but they robbed me of the chance to be comforted by my wife in my last days. They destroyed the rest of my life, so I destroyed theirs. At least they will be alive and able to try to rebuild. Jamal, he's in college. He can use his degree and have a different career. That's a laugh. In case you didn't know it, Jamal is far from an exemplary student. In fact, the university has already begun an investigation into him, and they have already found that he was only maintaining eligibility to play because he was getting some of the other tutors to write his papers and do his homework for him. He will most likely be expelled, and any classes that he already passed will be changed to failed if they find evidence of cheating. He won't be getting a degree, and he won't be accepted to any other college in the country. Perhaps he can at least be an example for all the other scumbags that get off on seducing married women. I shrugged. Okay, that's all the time we have. Thank you for agreeing to this interview. This is Amy Brown with Crap News. Amy gathered her notes and stood up. She shook my hand and passed me a note before she left. After she walked out, a stunning blonde walked in and sat down. A few minutes later, she was ready, and the blinding light came back on. This is Jessica Moore with Cunt News. I'm here with... The judge was going to be seriously annoyed when these interviews were aired. I figured that it was best to get them all done in one day before he could do anything about it. This was my last day of freedom anyway. It didn't much matter where I would be tomorrow. If he wanted to throw me in jail for contempt, it was going to cost him a bundle. My lawyer would make sure of that. Well, that pretty much ends things. I had packed what few things that I would still be able to use before the first interview. I was exhausted by the time the day was over. Early the next morning, Carly drove me over to the hospice where I would stay until it was over. Yes, the judge cited me with contempt. He was about to send officers over to haul my back to jail when my lawyer and doctor informed him that I would need to be placed in the infirmary because of my health. The cost of that would be high. They also indicated that they would be sure that they mentioned that to the news media. Instead, he ordered an ankle monitor be put on me to ensure that I didn't leave the hospice house. I laughed. There was nowhere for me to go anyway. Carly and the girls visited me almost every day. I understood that they couldn't always make it, but they were there when they could be. Other times, I was able to video chat with them for a while. They kept me up to date on things. Kim tried to visit me, but I had banned her from my visitors list. She gave the girls letters to give to me. They handed them to me when they arrived, and I simply tossed them in the trash after they left. I had no interest in anything she said. The DA first tried to move up the trial date. My lawyer fought it. It soon became apparent that it didn't matter. I wouldn't be able to attend anyway. My lawyer then began a public campaign about how the DA was wasting money and resources in continuing a case where the defendant would be dead before going to trial. Being intelligent, the DA quietly dropped the case. Yes, there was a lawsuit filed. It actually named both Kim and me. Since we were still married, she would be responsible for my debts after I died. That gave me a laugh. Her lover was messing with her one last time. My girls are here with me. So is Carly. I'm so exhausted. I can tell that this is it. I don't want to fight it anymore. I have nothing left and no reason to go on. I see one more person slowly enter my room. Kim, my wife. I haven't seen her since she visited me in jail right after I was arrested. Yes, I asked her to come. She nervously enters the room and slides up beside the bed. I'm sorry, she said. I know. I'm sorry too. I went overboard on you. No, you didn't. If you would have left me anything, it would have just been taken in the lawsuit. Besides, I'm the one who screwed up and had an affair. I forgive you for that. I've asked the girls to make sure that you are taken care of. I don't want you to starve or be homeless. I forgive you as well. That's probably for the best. That jerk will undoubtedly try to take anything that I own. As long as I have a place to live and enough to live on, that will be fine. I'm sorry that I couldn't comfort you these last few months. That was all my doing. I will have to live with that regret for the rest of my life. Don't be too hard on yourself. I walked away from you. I could have just confronted you and made my peace with it. Instead, I acted on revenge. You did what you thought you had to do. You were rightfully angry. Please know this. I never stopped loving you. I will love you till my dying day. When that happens, we will meet again, and I will love you for eternity. You are my soulmate. I forgot that for a while, but I came back. I see that you are tired now. Sleep, my love. Go in peace. We will meet again. Daddy drifted off. We all stayed as his breathing slowly slowed down until it finally stopped. The beeping of the machines became a single tone, and Daddy was gone. I'm Gina. The last conversation was written by me. I found Daddy's notebook after they came and took his body away. I read what he had written about the events over the last months of his life. After discussing it with Mom, Carly, and Sue, we decided that I should finish his story. Daddy had prepaid for his funeral. He also had a funeral account created for when Mom needed it. The plots were already purchased as well. We decided on a private ceremony. It was just family, but we did agree that 2 reporters could attend and take video. We were adamant that they do not cause a scene. It was nice, and Amy and Jessica were very respectful. I have to giggle a bit here because I found out later that Daddy met both reporters at a hotel room for one last fling before he went to the hospice. Jamal did proceed with the lawsuit against Daddy's estate. As you know by now, there wasn't an estate to go after. They tried to go after the business and the trust funds, but we were successful in getting those suits thrown out. Daddy had nothing to do with the firm at the time of the attack, and the trust funds were untouchable. Besides, Carly, Sue, and I were not involved in any way. Mom didn't fare as well. She was subject to a $20 million judgment. Although she had nothing that they could take, the judgment is still there. Sue and I hired Mom as a cook and housekeeper. She gets free room and board. We make sure that she has enough cash to have the entertainment that she needs. Everything is legal and above board, at least as far as anyone has been able to prove. His lawyers sniff around every once in a while. They don't get paid unless he can collect. He doesn't have any money to pay them. Sucks to be them. Eventually, they will get tired of it and give up. At least, until Mom coming into a pile of money becomes public knowledge. Still, everything is kept out of her name. She has suffered enough. No sense in adding to it. Mom doesn't really date. She does socialize with groups of her friends. She occasionally doesn't come home until the next morning. None of them are serious. Just a friends with benefits thing. She is adamant that she will never have another serious relationship again. She will remain free until she meets up with Daddy again. As for Jamal, he lives with his parents. His bedroom is on the first floor because he can't use the stairs very well. He was expelled as expected, and he refused to even think of applying at another school. He just sits around playing video games as he waits to collect on his judgment. That's probably why his parents are putting up with him, although I have been hearing some mumblings that they are getting tired of waiting. Jamal may soon find himself with a choice between being evicted or starting adulting. So, that's where things stand for now. Sue and I did take over the firm, and Aunt Carly stopped by occasionally to assist. She's retired now and living a nice life. She even takes Mom on a cruise with her a couple of times a year. Sue has a steady boyfriend right now, and it looks pretty serious. As for me, well, I haven't found any guys that seem to be Mr. Right. There are a few lovers that are Ms. Right now, though, one of which just might lose the last word in that title soon. Her name is Amy, and she is a reporter for the local news. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.